Hi, welcome to this topic on recording in UiPath. This is RPA IT3686 and IT3680C. So today we're going to talk about recording. Recording is extremely important. Recording is a very basic function in UiPath and in RPA. Now, recording is a function where you are able to record the user's action, and those actions will be repeatable in the UiPath process. So let me show you what it actually means. So first, we need to understand what is a UiPath recorder. Now, the UI interactions, UiPath recorder, let's talk about interaction first. UI interactions are actions performed by a user to interact with the system at the user interface level. So imagine this where you click on a certain application, drop down boxes, typing into text boxes, and these are divided into two types of interactions. The first one is called input actions. Second type is called output actions. Now, input actions are things that is input by the user into a system. So for example, you click on a UI, you type into a UI, you use keyboard shortcuts, you mouse hover something, you use special keys, you type, so on and so forth. So these are input actions. And you then have output action. Output action will be actions where you take data or output from the system, from the UI. So for example, getting text from the UI, extracting table data, finding elements in a website, identifying images, and then things like copying text, so on and so forth. So, example, imagine you have a window that looks like this, and you're keying in this Bernie Yo home. Now, this is a input action because you're keying into a search box. So this is a very good example of an input action because it's what the user types into the user interface, which is the text box. Now, of course, this also means that when you are coding the robot, you need to tell the robot what to key in to a user interface. So this is a good example of an input action. Typing a folder name into a input window, search window, for example. Let's talk about how we can add interactions one by one. Okay. So typically, right, when you are doing a UiPath sequence, as you learned earlier, typically what you do is you add a single interaction. So you add a click or a type into, so on and so forth. Now, doing it one by one is difficult, right? Because if you have a form with 50 fields or 50 interactions, it is something that is very troublesome for some people. They'll feel like, oh no, I need to drag them one by one. Is there an easier way to do it? So if you want to make it easier for you to actually record multiple input actions, one way is actually to use a recorder. Now, this functionality is in all the UiPath. Now, the recorder allows you to easily capture a user's action and then translate them into sequences. So in that sense, when you use the recorder, you can then do multiple actions, and those actions are then translate into what you see on the left side in the sequence. So if you go to your UiPath Studio recording, you see at the top here, App Recorder. So when you click on this, the web app recorder will appear and you will look something like this. Now, UI might be slightly different, but it's typically the same. This is the latest and the newest way of the recorder and how it looks and how it works. So basically, when you click on this, the top ribbon in your process, it will actually generate this, you open this window below. And then that's when you can click on the record button here, as you can see over here. And then from there, you can start to record the actions that you want to finish recording. You can then update those sequences to include data, so on and so forth. So actions that can be recorded. So things like left click, right check boxes, drop down list, typing text. These are things that the UiPath recorder can actually automate. Now, there are certain things that cannot be automated, which means you still have to manually select these actions. Things like keyboard shortcut, modifier keys, right clicking, hovering of your mouse, so on and so forth. So certain actions you still need to manually select that this is the, but certain actions such as typing and all that is automatically recorded. So these are some of the automatically recorded actions. Okay, so things like clicking on buttons, and a click activity is generated, type into activity is generated, clicking a checkbox, keyboard shortcuts, selecting items from a drop-down list. Now things like getting text, for example, you want to copy certain text from the website, you have to before you record it, say I'm doing a get text activity. and then it will record accordingly. And then you have things like hovering, your mouse, highlighting. Now, all these things is you can actually practice it when you are doing recording. You can try it out, and subsequently you will understand that certain things are quite straightforward, and certain things you just need to select before you record. So let's take a look at how it's done. So just imagine with me, okay, we'll open a, let's say in this particular use case, these are the three things you want to do. You want to open a contact list Excel file. From there, you want to read each row in the data table. So basically, in a Excel file, there are many rows. So you are reading each row using a for loop, and then you key them into a web form, and then you want to submit. All right. So basically, okay, let's imagine that this is the file, or the test form. I'm going to use a desktop form for this particular case. And then we're going to key in, when you open the file, this form will appear, and then there will be three fields: name, contact number, and email. And then the Excel file here will actually contain certain number of data. Okay. So when you add, let's say, web form process, you do a read range workbook. Now this read range workbook will actually allow you to add a activity read range workbook activity to the sequence first. So this is the first thing you do. And then from there, you browse to this particular file. Now these files are downloadable from the Brightspace. And then after that, you open the sheet called entities contact. So all this is where you can put this. This is the path to the file, and entities contact will actually be the spreadsheet name. So you are storing it into a data table. Okay. Notice that we use workbook, read range workbook, because we're only reading the rows. We are not using any Excel functions. So don't use the read range activities from Excel. Use it from the workbook. After we have done so, we will open it, and on the right side under properties in the output data table, make sure you create a variable as per what we did in lesson 1. Use the right click, Control K, create variable, create a variable key. All right, it's written here. Now, of course, if you can just listen to this lecture. You can actually do this on your own later because the steps are shown here. The main thing right now is to understand how it's being done. Okay, so basically, what we are doing here is very simple. We are just reading the read range workbook and just reading the workbook itself, and then we are outputting the content into the context detail. Now, then we're going to use a for loop. This is very common. This thing called table is extremely common. You're going to use it for your projects, for your assignment. Now, basically what it means is you are going through each of these one by one. So this is the contact DT. So if let's say there's 50 rows in the Excel file, the 50 rows are now stored here. And then you want to create a for loop for each of the contact within this. So if there's 50 rows, this for loop will go 50 times. The first time it goes into this for loop, it will be the first record, first row. Then you'll go on to second row, third row, fourth row, fifth row. It's like a normal loop in a list. This is what it means. Okay. Now we want to update. They will give you a default value, current row or row. So we're just going to update it to current contact like I have done here on the left side. And then finally, of course, you have to specify which data table it is, which is context DT. Over here, you use a open browser activity. Now, if you are planning to use the new one, which is the use app, then simply do the use app activity, okay, and you will open the website. So you do not need to use open browser, which is the old one. You can also use the use browser slash open app activity to browse to the Edge browser. And finally, I copy and paste the URL from the Edge browser and put it here so that you will open the page. I also select Edge as the default browser type. Finally, I'm going to start recording. Now, go to the top and you can see there's a web app recorder. So you're going to click on it and this thing is going to come out. Okay. Now, when you click on recording, it will record immediately. Any clicks and typing will be recorded. So if you don't want, click on the pause button first so that it doesn't start recording. Okay, then position your web form window. Basically, you open your web form, okay, like this on the left side, and then you click on the record button. Now, once you record, right, when you hover over the name field, it will be highlighted green. You click on it, and then you type in the value. So for now, because it's just telling the robot, hey, type into this text box. Actually, just simply type ABC first. Okay, then we click confirm. It's just a test data ABC. Then when you check the web app recorder, you'll see that the recorder steps will include type into name. Because that's what we did. We are telling the robot, hey, the first step that we record will be type into this text box, ABC. Then we do the same for contact number and email, also using ABC. Up to you. You can put 123, you can put a fake email. Later on, I'll teach you how we can change it to actual data. Finally, you want to record clicking on the submit button. So if you check your recorded steps, there should be 4. Number 1 would be the ABC. Number 2, the name, the contact number, email, and finally there should be a click for submit button. Then click on the save icon to save the recording, and that's it. You are done with recording. Now, when you go back to your UiPath again, when you go back to your UiPath again after you record finish, you will see that all the activities are created here. So what we're going to do is we're going to change this current contact, as you can see on the left side here. Okay, here, current contact. Okay, so this is what it means. This is a row name, current contact. This is the column name, phone number. This must match up with what's in the Excel file. So for the phone number field, as you can see here, okay, you need to change it this instead of ABC or 123, you need to change it to this. The variable for the current row, the column name, which is phone number, and then to string. Now for name, it will be current contact name. And finally, for email, it will be current contact email. Now it must match what is in your Excel file and not what is on the form, because we are reading from the Excel file row, not from the form. We are typing into the form. So although the form put contact number, you can see here, because the Excel file column is actually phone number, you have to type phone number. Okay, do not follow us on the form, but rather follow what is inside your Excel file in order to extract the text. Then we're going to do the same for email as well, and of course for name. As you can see here in my Excel file on the bottom, ODT phone number and ODT email is actually what is inside the Excel file, so follow that. Finally, you want to have a close tab activity after the submit activity, so over here. Basically, whatever we created are inside the for loop, and in the for loop, they will do, for first row, they will actually enter the phone number and the ODT email. Finally, we put a close tab. So this will be repeated 7 times. If your Excel file has 7 contacts, 7 ODTs, or 7 rows, these actions will be repeated 7 times. Now, this is a basis of your projects, of all the things that you're going to be doing moving forward, because form activity is something very common that we always do. Okay. That's it. That is the end of the chapter. I hope you all learned something today. If you have any questions, feel free to look at lectures, and I'll see you soon.